It's time for Mike Erie's show. He's ripping off Cullinane. He wants to find some fans to talk to, 'cause he's lonely on Saturdays. Mike was told to come up with something, and I guess this is what he did. We should give him some points for trying. Kirk wants to know what the point of this is. Just a warning for all you guys. You'll never get this hour back in your life. This is Mike and the Minifans. Mike is talking with you. This is Mike and the Minifans. Mike is talking with you. This is Mike and the Minifans. This is Mike and the Minifans. Mike is talking with you.
Justin, just a word to the wise. It's Mike and the Minifans is live. The Mike and the Minifans is singular. It's the title of the show. I'm not going to get on you for grammar or spelling because I've been known to make a few errors myself, but don't make an asshole out of me, all right? Don't make a fucking maniac out of me here. Mike and the Minifans is live right now. What's going on, everybody? This is going to be, I predict, a fucking disaster. We've had a couple people bail, a couple that might pop in at some point. I don't know what's going on, huh? DJB can go on. Oh, okay. Oh, terrific. Thank God DJB is here. But yeah, we've got a good show planned for you tonight, but it might be a little shorter than usual because I don't know what's going on. Doesn't matter. Fucking Patriots suck, huh? Jesus Christ. I'm all over the place. But first, I want to tell you guys, before I bring out my lovely panel of guests, I want to tell you about the Broken T. Broken T Virtual Golf in Lakeville, Massachusetts. Again, Justin would tell you Lakeview or wherever the fuck, but I'm here to assure you it is Lakeville, Massachusetts. You can go to 166 County Road in Lakeville and swing on their multiple full swing virtual golf screens. This is good for pretty much, like, if you want to bring your kids and just fuck around, if you are a guy that is into golf and wants to get a few rounds in over the winter, or if you're learning. I think this is the perfect type of, like, for a guy like me, it would be perfect that fucking sucks at golf, or if you just need a place to golf during the winter. This is awesome. Broken T Virtual Golf, run by Minifans. You can get lessons from PGA professional Mark Kitchen, who is a Minifan himself. And if you mention Mike and the Minifans, if you want to buy gift cards, still a few shopping days left before Christmas, gang. So if you want to get gift cards or lessons with PGA Pro Mark Kitchen, mention Mike and the Minifans, you get 10% off. And make sure to support these guys. TheBrokenT.com. That's T-E-E. TheBrokenT.com. Go get a few rounds in, drink some craft beers, party your ass off at Broken T Virtual Golf, our friends in Lakeville, Massachusetts. Make sure you stop by and support a group of good Minifans and get some golfing. All right, where to begin? We got a lot of shit going on here. All of a sudden, the last hour, I didn't know what the show was going to be. And in the last hour, some stuff is popping off here. We've got a great panel of loyal Minifans. We've got DEC, disgraced former president, TJ Hubbard, very loyal Minifan who I've now met a few times. Great guy. DJB, who is my sort of dark.
What's going on?
I'm grooming this kid to be the next some asshole that I used to do a podcast with. And then an Australian who's going by the name of Manners. Is that what you're called?
Manners from Sydney. Hello, boys.
The accent almost sounds fake. I'm almost questioning if you're actually from Australia or not. It sounds a little, I can't quite tell.
I am.
Maybe if he raises the drapes there, will the sun come in.
How'd you discover the Minahan show then? If you're down there.
My fandom of Kirk Minahan is a testament to his greatness. I used to listen to some podcasts from EEI to keep up with the sporting teams in Boston. And one day I was listening to like D&C podcast and I hated Dino, so I couldn't listen to it. But one day I heard some interview with a player, and at the end, Kirk was bitching and fighting with someone about something. And straight away I was hooked. I was like, I want to hear the next segment. What's he so upset about? And from there, it just kind of rolled on. And yes, I've been a P1 since Kirk joined the D&C show.
Yes. All right. Well, maybe we'll get more into that. But first, I want to address
You sure you don't want to keep going?
we'll get there. We'll circle back. I'm a little frazzled here. So I'm driving back. I had to go out to Western Mass today for some Christmas shit, and I'm driving back, and I figured I'd listen to our friends on the Jerry Callahan podcast, and they did a mailbag yesterday, I think, and there were a couple things I took umbrage with. I took issue with. Now, I'll address first the idea that I, for some reason, would start doing fake radio and pick fights with people, as some people on Twitter would have you believe. Some people that apparently don't want to be mentioned. They mentally can't handle it, yet they pipe up every 5 fucking minutes to heckle you. It's bizarre. It's weird. And it's almost, you would think it's weird. DC, maybe you could attest to this. It's weird that a guy would do a podcast with you and know how you operate and know that you wouldn't do fake shit ever, and then spout off about it and form an opinion before word one is even said about it. Does that strike you as fucking odd at all? I'm not talking about anyone in particular. It just seems very strange.
You seem pretty upset. You're all
It's just fucking annoying because I like MHB. It's just I like him and I want to like him, and there's no reason not to like him except for every.
See, the way we're gearing up there, I didn't know if you're talking about Cullinane or MHB, because I think that could fit both things.
Yeah, I mean it does fit both of them basically, but it's like I've never had a problem with MHB, and he's doing this thing where he's now playing a character that I guess his thing is going to be being critical of me. Whoa, that's edgy. No one does that. No one ever criticizes me on the show. That's weird. So I don't know what he's doing. What's that?
Low-hanging Mike.
I mean, a little bit, but if he wants to criticize me, that's fine. But it's like, dude, if you have a problem, we're buddies. You can fucking text me and say you want to come on the show. You know what I mean?
Well, he's done the same thing with me. He's got my phone number.
There's literally been an open invite to him anytime. In fact, the idea of the show was that it would be me, him, and 2 other people. But it just happened to start at a time that he said he couldn't do it even as a guest. So there goes that. Like, I'm sorry, I wanted him on. I like doing podcasts with him. And also the idea that I've done 40 shows with him or whatever. I mean, maybe less than that, but whatever it was. The idea that I would suddenly start fake feuds. Like, I'm going to start a buzz by criticizing Jerry. Jerry's one of my top 5 all-time favorite broadcasters. I don't want to fucking beef with him. I just find it annoying that he keeps this shtick going that I don't criticize Kirk enough for some reason. He sounds like a jealous bitch on this podcast, and we'll get to that in a second. But also I want to address a lie Cullinane told in there. So you've heard Kirk on the show and Steve kind of not even upset, mildly annoyed that Jerry and Cullinane are not doing the show in the Kirk Minahan Show studios, and they kind of just decided that out of nowhere without telling Kirk or Steve. And I never really gave a fuck. I don't even remember if I really weighed in when they were talking about that, because it really didn't affect me in any way. Like, I like the idea of having Jerry and Dave around if they wanted to pop in, or while they were doing their show, they could come in studio or whatever. I like that idea, but it doesn't affect my fucking life, so why do I give a shit? I wouldn't be if they helped pay the rent, I wouldn't be getting any of that, so why do I give a fuck? But now it's starting to annoy me because there's this weird lie that Cullinane is starting. So Steve was essentially mad that Cullinane was being shady about how they paid us, whether it was a percentage of ad revenue or one one spot. I'm not smart enough to know the terminology, but basically there was something shady going on the last time this was mentioned, really. Then, Justin, if you can play the Cullinane clip, I'm listening to the Jerry Callahan podcast, and Dave claims this is why they're not doing the show from the Kirk Minahan Show studios, which seemed very odd to me. Do you have it, Justin, or no?
We were going to do the show at Kirk's studio, but Kirk, the timing isn't right. Kirk goes for some days till 11, 12, and we got to get done.
That was basically my point, is that if they don't finish till 11, you're not going to start until, let's call it noon, right? You're going to be setting up.
And Cullinane has things to do. He's a busy man.
What did Steve say? An amalgamation of side hustles.
Amalgamation of side hustles.
So that's, to quote my friend Dave Portnoy, that's a lie. There are 5 rooms, 5 separate studios that you could record from. And that I understand they don't have a couch and a bar and a nice window, as Jerry was so
And
excited
a
about.
popcorn machine.
Yeah, we don't have that. We don't have that. But hey, we could get it with the crazy rent they were going to be charged. We could probably afford it. So I don't know why there's a lie about that. They can do it in any fucking studio. So I don't know why Cullinane is lying about that. So now I'm starting to think there's a weird thing where they didn't want to do it from the Kirk Minahan studios for some shady reason. That's the problem with Cullinane. Is I like Cullinane, and I bet he's not lying here. Yeah.
Can we hold on a second?
Yeah.
So on that, he said that he doesn't want to do it in your studio because you guys will be recording, right?
Yeah.
So does he legitimately think that he's going to go in there and like use your equipment? Is that a possibility? Like, do you think? You know,
yeah, he thought we were going to do it in the same room. So when we're done, Jerry,
right? That's what I'm saying.
That's fucking crazy. There's 5 other rooms.
Yeah, so
4 other rooms.
So I had no idea that there were 5 other rooms.
It's huge. Honestly, the studio that Kirk and Steve found it's bigger than the Barstool Milton office. Like when Barstool was in Milton, it's bigger than I would say maybe much big, much more spacious than the office in Milton was.
But Mike, did Jerry walk
which
to your
studio
studio?
is easier for Jerry to get to though? Because we know he hates traffic.
I don't know. I mean,
walk...
we're 5 minutes from fucking Entercom, which he went to for 20 years. So I can't imagine it's that difficult for him to get there.
But I think he lives in that neighborhood now. I think he lives there. So this is really easy for Jerry.
Okay, then don't say it's because we're recording at the same time, Dave. That might be why people find Cullinane shady, because his instinct is to just say shit, like whatever comes to his fucking mind. Maybe I'm being weird for being angry about that. But when I heard it, I was like, Dave, you're just lying. Like you could do it in any other studio. We don't have as nice a couch as Jerry gets to sit in, I guess, but we could probably muster something up if they actually wanted to record it there, and it would be fun to have them. In that world. Again, I don't give a shit where they record from. I just don't know why Dave would lie and say it's because we're doing it at the same time. It doesn't make any fucking sense to me. I wouldn't have played that.
Jerry.
I wouldn't have
Maybe
played.
he's just trying to help out Jerry because I don't think it has anything to do with Dave.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. So I wouldn't have played that. That clip doesn't bother me that much. I wouldn't have played that. It just kind of irked me. And then when I heard this is when I got kind of annoyed at the podcast in general. This is Jerry talking about the Kirk Minahan show in general, I guess.
Real stuff. Face to face. This is kind of shitting on you. This
No,
is just
I'm
busting
talking-
your balls.
Right. Bust balls.
Yeah.
Right. I think Kirk needs someone to bust his balls, and God knows he's got no one doing that now, and it's too bad. But we have it out. We talk all the time. And we yell at each other.
That I've just heard about a fucking enough of from Jerry and everyone else. It's too bad. Like, it's sad that Kirk has been put in this position. First of all, I'm pretty sure this is the kind of show Kirk wanted to do, where we'll do some news stories, we'll do some silly shit, we'll talk about inside stuff, we'll talk about Barstool stuff, we'll talk about what's going on in the world, whatever. We'll have guests on, we'll have serious guests on, we'll have fucking we'll call Dave Cullinane or MHP during the show. It doesn't matter. So this idea that Kirk needs to be challenged by me and Steve. I don't know what the fuck I don't get why people think I'm being so fake all the time, which is starting to fucking annoy me. Because MHP and Jerry have this idea that I'm this guy that apparently doesn't want to go after Jerry Callahan ever, but I want to go after Kirk. And for some reason, I'm not doing either of those things. It's this bizarre thing where I'm being this phony, and it's fucking annoying. And I don't know these issues that I'm suppressing my rage against Kirk on. If you want someone to argue with Kirk every day, it's just not me. That's not what I'm going to do. I was drawn to that show because I typically agree or understand a lot of what he says, and I find him entertaining. B, he's done a lot for me, so I don't have this built-up anger towards him that I'm just going to fucking heckle him every day. And C, I don't want to be fake. So I'm not just going to take the opposite point of Kirk on something for the sake of fucking argument. It just seems silly to me. Am I overreacting here, fellas? What do you think?
I think DJB has got his hand up.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I agree with what you said. You know, you can't be someone who you're not. But also, how many times on the show has Kirk said he wants to do a different show? Like everyone heard him and Jerry go at it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So this is just part of that world. That's part of doing a different show, like getting new people in there, like taking things in a different direction. I just don't get why he can't understand that. He doesn't have to like it, and that's been made very clear. You know
So
what I'm
I mean,
saying?
I think it's the kind of downtrodden tone in Jerry's voice in that clip. Can we play it again, Justin? It's the idea that he almost feels Kirk has been taken captive by me and Steve, and we're doing this slap and tickle fest while he really wants to be arguing with Jerry. It seems it's Jerry, just fucking move on. Jerry's one of the most talented broadcasters I've ever listened to. One of my favorites ever. I think he would do a great show. I miss hearing him talk about politics and argue with people. I even miss hearing him talk about sports sometimes, if I'm being totally honest. Move on and do your own fucking show. Don't think about how great it would be. Don't think about how great it would be to do the Kirk and Callahan show.
Face to face. This is just kind of shitting on you. This
No,
is
I'm
busting
talking-
your balls.
Right. Bust balls.
Yes.
Right. I think Kirk needs someone to bust his balls, and God knows he's got no one doing that now, and it's too bad. But we have it out. We talk.
Oh, it's too bad that Kirk has one of the most successful podcasts on the fucking planet. While the only reason anyone's listening to Jerry's show is because it was promoted on the Kirk Minahan show, you fucking asshole. I think I'm doing a pretty good job on the show. So I'm tired of Jerry taking these fucking digs at me that I laugh too much and that I agree with Kirk too often. That's the dynamic of the fucking show. And then he mentions Jerry mentions later in the show that I'm a moron. He's a moron for believing that Callahan and KO story. You know what I'm talking about? That Jerry wanted to name the Kirk, Callahan, and Ordway show Callahan and KO. To be perfectly honest, I thought there was and I said it on the fucking show that Kirk is probably, I go, this is one that I'm going to assume you're exaggerating because I respect Jerry too much to believe that. I said that on the fucking air. And also, I think it's more fun to play along a little bit, to laugh at that. Instead of me going, Kirk, do you have any proof? Do you have any proof of that? When call Jerry up? When did he say that? I think it's more fun to fucking laugh about it. And then if Jerry wants to come on in 2 months and fucking argue about it, then we can do that again. I don't see the purpose of me saying, hey, Kirk, stop right there. I'm going to argue with you here about this. Did Jerry really say that in those exact words?
Mike, the formatic here is not necessarily the Callahan and KO. It's the fact that from a long time, he's thought that Ordway would be the perfect third person for him and Kirk. That would have been an absolute disaster. So his
I don't know if I agree with
bringing
that.
the wrong people.
I don't know if I agree
Disaster.
with that. You think it would be?
I completely agree with DC. That would have been a disaster. You got Ordway and you got Callahan agreeing with each other, and Kirk's just sitting there. Well, at least when you had like Reamer on, there was the black and white, going at each other, and Kirk was there to mediate. And maybe Callahan's sitting there saying to you that you don't bust the balls enough, but it's not being the contrarian. It's being just giving Kirk the business.
I mean, I make fun of his dead parents. I tell him the movies he likes sucks. I don't know what more I can really do. As far as like busting balls, I'll do that. I make fun of the idea that he's writing a novel in a tweed jacket, playing his records in the background. Like, I'll make fun of that shit when it comes up, but I'm not going to every day say, hey, Kirk, I disagree with you on this fake issue that I'm making up, that I have this hard stance on. It's like, if I agree with him, I'm going to agree with him. I don't know what the fuck you want from me. But I'm surprised you think, Dennis and Callahan with Kirk was a good show. And I think Ordway is better on the air than John Dennis. No?
It was a good show, but the show took off after John Dennis left. Once John was gone, you look back and say, that thing was a piece of shit. Kirk was able to turn chicken shit into chicken salad, and it would have been a lot like that.
It was a piece of shit with Dino. It was. You would listen to it. I would hear this big booming voice and just shit would come out of his mouth. Dino was, by the end, was shocking. But Mike, I reckon there's a bit of, I'm not going to say envy, but I think Callahan cannot accept that as soon as he was punted by Entercom, he wasn't begged by Kirk to join the world. I think it's a bit of a shock for Jerry.
Well, then you know what you do, Jerry? You have some fucking balls, And when Kirk gets kicked out on his ass by Entercom, and by EEI, I should say, when he was going to do radio.com, Jerry should have said, then it's me and him. You put both of us on radio.com, you get rid of us both, whatever the fuck. If you love doing radio with that guy that badly, then fucking leave with him. And don't do a shitty show with Mutt for 6 months. You have a sack, and you leave with Minahan, and you tell radio.com that it's going to be us two together, or there's not going to be any fucking internet show. There's not going to be any morning show on EEI. We're a package deal. You grow a set of nuts if you love doing radio with the guy that badly. The problem is, I don't know that he loves doing radio with Kirk that badly. I think it's that he sees the value, now that he's been kicked out on his sorry ass, that he sees the value of the Kirk and Callahan show. It's pretty cold out there now that he's on his own. So you have some fucking loyalty to the guy, and you go with him if you enjoy his partnership that much. Don't look at me like a sad puppy dog and think that I don't deserve it. Because, I mean, I've worked hard to get where I am. Maybe people think I suck, whatever. Who gives a shit? But I like the role that I'm in, and I'm not going to change it because Jerry thinks I laugh too much.
Yeah, I agree with you saying that, you know, he should have went with him if it was really that important. But if I remember correctly, he was saying that he knew from the start radio.com, you know, wasn't going to work out for Kirk.
Of course.
So I think that played.
Then you say fire. Kirk was doing it. So if broadcasting with Kirk is that important, you say this is a package deal. It's the Kirk and Callahan show on radio.com, and if it doesn't work, we fucking leave, and we together go to Barstool, or we together start our own subscription service, or whatever they want. If it's that important to you, if having someone in there to argue with Kirk is that important to you, then go and do it. You should have done it last November instead of bitching about it now a year later.
In hindsight, like for him, it's really easy to realize that. But at the time, you know, Kirk always mentions how Jerry loves radio. So at the time, it was like, I want to be on the radio. You know what I mean? He wasn't ready to give that up. I'm not saying it makes sense. I'm just saying how it does make sense.
I mean, I understand why Jerry would want to be on radio. But again, what's more? Is it more important to be on WEEI, a station that it showed obviously no loyalty to Jerry after 20 years, kicked him out on his ass and wrote a line in the 6th paragraph about it, or to be loyal to Kirk, who would have fought for Jerry, and I'm sure did in some form or fashion?
Right, and I don't disagree with that one bit.
Now that you guys have heard my rant on this issue, does it seem fake? Does it seem like I was trying to start a feud with Jerry?
No, I don't think this is who you are. You are generally a pretty go-along, get-along type of guy. You like to have fun. When you get pissed off, it is genuine. And you shouldn't be the guy who has to be the next Jerry who's looking for the fight, because then you wouldn't be your authentic self. Just be your best self, you. Now, when you do reserve the time to get angry, it's entertaining as hell. I was enjoying this. I don't even think you need us here. Just go for another hour and yell.
Because go ahead. What'd you say, TJ?
No, I was going to say, like, you say someone go like Kirk. Like, the other day when the stupid circle game came up, who's going to take the contrarian view on that? Like, when he's
right, I guess I'm supposed to say.
I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah, I'm supposed to say, guys, Trenny is pretty reasonable on this issue. I think these gentlemen should also be dishonorably discharged
and executed.
But it's all like, I don't know. That's the weird thing, is that when Jerry's been in, his issue with me is that I don't call him out on stuff he says about Jerry. Like the Callahan and KO show would be, next time Jerry is in, I'm sure his issue with me would be that I didn't call him out when he was telling that story. Jerry, I wasn't fucking there. I don't know your guys' relationship. It's possible that you could have said that. I don't know you that well. What the fuck do you want from me?
What does it matter? It was funny.
Exactly. Thank you. Sometimes things are just funny to fucking laugh at. But I don't know. And then it just pissed me. The whole thing pissed me off. That pissed me off. Then I tweet about it, and MHB says I'm going to do this fake, phony thing. And I even hate mentioning MHB, because then he's going to turn and say, well, you need me for content. You have to bring up my name for content, like that redheaded cunt did last week, who I'll never say his fucking name again. I hate the idea that if you say something that annoys me, I'm either being fake or I need you for content. It's like I can't be fucking annoyed because I'm a nice guy. I'm a friendly guy. I can never get fucking angry at anything. Fuck you. Go fuck yourself.
Well,
MHB is just jealous as well.
Not to mention, this is your fucking show. I mean, you can really talk about whatever you want to talk about. I
Of
don't
course.
understand. I don't understand why he has the need to tell you that you shouldn't.
Well, that's the thing with MHB. Then come on, I've said time and time again to the guy, I like doing fucking podcasts with him. He's welcome on anytime. I texted him. He was on the first time a couple weeks ago, and then I said, "Hey, you want to come back next week?" He said, "I really can't. I should lay low for a while," which is fine. Which I think is what he should do, by the way. But it's like, if you're gonna lay low, then fucking lay low. Don't pop your head up every time you need attention and start going after people again.
Is he working for the CIA, FBI?
You think? I don't know. Yeah, that could be it.
So your face is already out there. We already know your name. Like, who cares?
Yeah, what are you hiding at this point? Well, I think so.
What the fuck are you hiding?
As much as I'm annoyed at MHB lately, it's like, I think he's a guy. He just has ups and downs. Like, I mean, like mentally, like chemical imbalance. Maybe I shouldn't say. I don't know enough about.
Pretty low down.
Yeah, it's just this weird thing where it's like he's a nice, understanding guy at times, and then he's off his fucking rocker, and I don't know what he's mad about.
But what is the real MHB then? I'm sorry that we're going into this becoming an MHB discussion, but we had the discussion, MHB and I, on your show a couple weeks ago, and it seemed like to me everything was fine.
Right.
And then he's blasting me away on Twitter after, like we never had a conversation. So which is it? Is it the prick on Twitter, or is it the guy who goes to everybody and apologizes afterward and said, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that? Which is it? That's
the thing that's hard to figure out. KMS Polls did a well thought out selection. I don't know who the real guy. Like, it's tough. I assume the real guy is the guy I talked to off air, like via text, and like when we were doing the podcast off air. Seems like a nice, reasonable guy. Like, that's the thing, is he's never voiced this frustration with me that I'm this phony that's going to start fake feuds. Like, that fucking bothers me. But I don't know. DC, how's the Minifans show been going without him? Have you found a stride at all? Are you enjoying doing it?
Yeah, I do kind of enjoy doing it. Having him at his best is easier, but I kind of like the challenge now to see who can I find. Are there people out there that we haven't dug into? MHB would want to do a lot of like Proud Boys stuff, and I wouldn't go towards that, but it ended up being interesting. What? Oh, like he's into all like the circle game would have been a big thing for him because he's into conspiracies and stuff. Okay. And he helped bring in a lot of good guests in, but I like the idea of bringing in some different people. Maybe it won't work. Maybe it will. Bringing in some women, bringing in some men, radio scene, just trying a whole bunch of different stuff and just seeing what sticks.
You have an interesting show planned for this week where I'm curious. You're doing a Star Wars review, right?
Right.
With who?
With an asshole who was shitting on it when he was telling Kirk. There's an individual from Dexter, Maine, who thought this was a great idea and would love to be on the show.
Now, see, I was honest about it. I don't know that it is. I mean, I think you should do whatever you want. I think you should give it a try, and if it sucks, who gives a shit? But it is odd to have a show called the Minifans Show and then all of a sudden do like Star Wars reviews when that's not really a part of our world or anything.
So people are talking about it. I'm not going to do movie shows all the time, but hey, it's Star Wars. I thought it was going to be awful, and I thought it would be an opportunity for me just to spout out and start yelling and screaming. So I'd have a couple Minifans on who have seen it, and now I'm hearing it was actually pretty good. I'm going to go see it tonight. So I figured it would be kind of a fun thing to do for 30 minutes, something different. And if it's really lousy, it gives something Kirk to shit on.
That's true. That's very true. That's where I see the real importance. But you had an interesting idea that I like a lot. I just don't think it's possible. And most people watching right now will have no idea what we're talking about.
I don't give a shit. I want them.
The co-creator of Blindside Pods, who I won't say his name because I don't think he gives a shit really. But just for his sake, I won't say his name. But there was you can figure it out pretty easily. There was a movie podcast called On Tap. That was once on blindsidepods.com, along with Trash Talk, and the Minifans show. And that's terrific. That's terrific. The Minifans show did, I mean, a good job. I didn't care for it. I thought it was mean-spirited. But they did make sport of this gentleman, the host of On Tap, because, to say the least, the podcast was a little dry. It was a little slow-moving, and you almost wonder, what's the point of me listening to this when you hear it? It was a movie review. It was a movie and beer review podcast. So he would review one movie that was new in theaters and one like IPA or whatever the fuck he would drink that week.
So and one sentence on the beer.
It was an interesting concept.
There was also a theme with the movies. The movies had sort of a genre that ran through it.
So that's the thing. And I remember Steve from Providence was here's the funny thing is I love Steve from Providence. He was going to be on tonight, but I think he's shit-faced right now. But I love Steve from Providence. So he and I had beef almost a year ago at this point when all these shows kind of started up. And he was very upset that I had that podcast on my network. And I was like, isn't there kind of some value in having a shitty podcast that we can make fun of on there? I never got into making fun of it really, but I think the Minifans did a pretty good job of it. I was surprised a guy like Steve Providence didn't see the value in that, but you guys certainly did. And I would recommend going into the old Minifan shows to kind of hear some of that. But it brought an idea to my mind, DEC, and that is... Do you think maybe even next week? Because I mean, there's nothing going on with the show. I'm sure something will come up. But next week might be the perfect time to do it because there's no new shows coming out or anything, except for the best of. And I was wondering if I should introduce the Mike and the Minifans audience to Garrison the bartender.
Yes, I was hoping you were going this way. Oh, this is old school Minifan stuff right here. And I don't care if it's just you and me who know about this. To me, this is funny as shit.
You think so? You think I should do it?
Yeah, I'll.
Would you want to come back next week if we do it again?
Worth it.
Would you want to come back next week if we do it again?
Sure. I'm down with the Garrison stuff.
I might have. So Tim from Canton's going to be on next week. And I don't know who else. But we may get to that. Actually, that's a perfect segue into our next ad. The fact that Tim from Canton is on, because Tim from Canton brought these guys on board. Friends of his from Canton would be Rosetta's Restaurant, an Italian joint in Canton, Mass. This was started by buddies of Tim from Canton. Carlo. Hello, Carlo. Carlo is the owner and operator. A former Marine would not be, Trenny would not, what's the word I'm looking for? Patronize this establishment because it's run by an ex-Marine, an honorable guy, you know, a guy that served this country. Trenny wouldn't like that. But I think myself, certainly, and the Minifans would appreciate Rosetta's Restaurant in Canton. Check that out if you're in the area. And the thing is, this is kind of restaurant season. Like after Christmas, people aren't going to want to be cooking and that type of shit. So Tim from Canton's going to tell us more about it next week. But make sure you check out rosettasrestaurant.com. And if you're in the Canton, Massachusetts area, check out our friends, Rosetta's Restaurant. Our boy Carlo, ex-Marine. Trenny may not support him, but we on the Mike and the Minifans certainly do. So go check that out. And Tim from Canton's going to be on next week. Give us a little more insight into what that place is like. I'll get a nice chicken parm there. That is a place I can, in fact, get a chicken parm. I've ordered at a steakhouse many times, but it seems like Rosetta's Restaurant may have a better dish for me. So Garrison the bartender, do it. TJ, DJB, or Manners. Do you have any idea what we're talking about with Garrison the bartender?
I have an idea of Garrison the bartender from the Minifan show when I was listening to that. The downtimes.
I'm trying to find a website for him.
So this is a guy. he's a guy
ripping off his chest here.
so I worked with him at Entercom. He was on the street team with me, and he's a guy who tells you all kinds of. Maybe I'm making some leaps here in saying he would tell you some tall tales. Per example, he would tell me that the great story, because I know stand-up enough to just poke holes in this right away. He told me he was doing stand-up at the Laugh Factory in Los Angeles, a historic club. That's where Michael Richards had his meltdown. The Laugh Factory, but they get all kinds of names in there. So he's doing stand-up at the Laugh Factory in Los Angeles, and Joe Rogan and Ari Shaffir get into it with him after the show, telling him that the stuff he's doing is too edgy, like it shouldn't be done on a stage. So he'll tell me stories like that. He worked in reality TV and discovered the likes of Snooki. He put Snooki on the Jersey Shore. He wrote a movie script that he sold for $100,000. He sparred with Ronda Rousey. He wrestled Cain Velasquez in high school, and he lost. But Cain Velasquez went up to him after the fight and said, "Hey, man, I fought a lot of guys, and you really held your own. Like, held your own more than anyone else I've ever seen." Now, it's also important to note, Google for yourself what Cain Velasquez measurements are, and then just note that Garrison, the bartender, is roughly 5'3", 109 pounds, give or take. So you'll find that funny when you see just who Cain Velasquez is, and the fact that they were wrestling in the same weight class in high school. He was boys with James Howard in college. James Harden. Sorry. All kinds of fucking tall tales he'll tell. And I thought that was fine until he went out of it. The story's too long to get into, but he did this weird thing where he was jealous that I had a podcast on EEI, which if you look at that fucking podcast lineup, who would be jealous of that? I mean, really. But he was jealous of that, so he tried to get me fired. It was this weird saga. But anyways, Garrison the bartender wanted to break into the podcast game, and he had a pretty good show called An Open Road. I don't know if it still exists. If it does, I'm going to get Justin on it, and we might do it next week.
Nope.
Oh, it doesn't exist anymore.
No, but your boy was on there, right? Your boy, that guy who did the On Tap podcast.
Maybe I'll ask him if he
So
has.
if you want to know more about this great product that Garrison has, you can find it on Twitter at Beard with 2 E's. Beard Shaving, BEERD Shaving, and you can see the video of him ripping the epidermis off of his chest with pube shaving cream. And then there's Garrison the bartender presents karaoke, where he's screaming his
This is probably, now that I'm talking about it, it's probably the perfect Mike and the Minifans show type topic, because it's too weird for even the Kirk Minahan show to get into. Like, it's too inside and bizarre, even for Kirk, I think. Maybe maybe once we do it, he'll like it and talk about it more, but I really doubt it. I would be very surprised. But all right, that's a good tease for next week. Come back next week, folks, for Garrison the bartender. Maybe you'll get to meet him if we can find sound of it, for Christ's sake.
Mike,
so what else has been going on in the world? What's the hot topic in the Discord? Is it still the election? Is it any of Steve's lies? What are we getting into in the Minifan world without a show next week, except for the best stuff coming up?
Mike, I want to ask you why you were so triggered on Thursday's show by Steve talking to you about your impeachment tweet. I mean, you really were angry. Is there some kind of, does Steve talk down to you a lot, off the show, and it kind of builds up and then you lashed out?
Off the show, Steve is actually great. There's a weird thing on the show, and maybe it's kind of, maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe it's just not that Steve's playing a character, but I mean, everyone is in a way. No one's 100% their real self on air, I guess. I don't even know if that's true. I think Kirk probably is 100% his real self. But I don't know if it's shtick that Steve is doing. But on air, there are times where I'm like, why the fuck is he talking to me like this? And even, I gave the examples when we got into this the first time a few weeks ago. But there are just times where it's like, if I mispronounce a word or say something dumb or make an idiotic point, bust my balls about it. Don't just go, and kind of slough it out. You know what I mean? Like, doesn't that seem odd? Like, on the type of show that we're on, doesn't it seem odd to just kind of let something go if you think it's dumb.
That's
if
right.
you
He
think
sniggers and
yeah.
he looks down his nose at you, kind of like, oh, there's the idiot in the corner again.
Yes. Yeah. And then I mean, like here's like the idea that they keep. Mostly Steve keeps bringing up the Supreme Court justice thing. I'm pretty open about the fact that I don't give a shit about that. Also, I didn't say 75 and the answer was 9. I said 7. I said essentially the closest number it could be because it can't be 8. So I was pretty fucking close. And also I'm just totally guessing because I don't know. It's not, I don't live in that world that I would ever really give a shit about the amount of Supreme Court justices there are. I don't know. Am I an asshole for not doing that? Maybe I am.
No, I don't think you are. It's just Steve's got this elitist attitude, and he thinks if you know politics, then you're better than everyone else. That's what it seems
that's kind of the thing that I'm saying is that, like, in some way, he's better than me. Like, I think he gets annoyed when I chime in on political topics. Whereas, I mean, I guess, I don't know, old radio and stand-up would be kind of my area of expertise. So we're talking about, I mean, this is going back a ways, but when we talked about the Dave Chappelle special, when Steve chimed in, I didn't look down his note like, listen, pal, you don't listen to as much stand-up as I do. How dare you fucking give an opinion? That's the only thing so your question was like off air, does Steve talk down to me? Never. Steve's actually like very, very nice to me and has done a lot for me and been a huge help to me off the air. It's more so on the air. Very little things that maybe I take too personally, but things that have kind of annoyed me over the last few months.
I don't think it's about you. I think it's about Steve. And when it comes to politics, just look at all the videos that he's done. When he gets into that political arena and he feels he's got a better opinion, he's just ready to bear down and be smug about it. I think this is just, you get him in that place. He wants to show you that he is more right and knows more. I don't think it's necessarily a malign thing.
That is it. Go ahead.
Being from Maine, and he went to the same school as Dale Arnold. Just to point that out. But yeah, but Steve does know his politics. I mean, he does know them.
Sure, yeah.
So it's his forte. Absolutely, his forte is not the Dave Chappelle show, and it's not music.
Right, right, of course.
But it's the same as Mike Manansky with music.
So we're on the show talking about an issue that has to do with politics. I feel pretty uncomfortable sitting that out. So for me, you know what I mean? Like, I can't just tap out and say, well, this is on you guys. I've got to at least chime in with a couple of yucks or something, you know? I can't just sit out and say, hey, I'll sit out for a few minutes. You guys handle this one. You know what I mean? And if I have an opinion on something, I'm going to throw it out there. I might sound like a fucking asshole, but I got to talk about it at least.
And even if you get shit on for it, it's still pretty funny. So it's kind of like
right. I'll say this: the example you brought up, Manners, was the impeachment tweet. I actually thought that was a hilarious segment. Like I watched that whole thing on YouTube because I enjoyed it so much, even though obviously I was being viciously attacked, much like our president, under false pretenses. But I think both Steve and Kirk did a great job with that segment because I thought it was very funny. Just the idea that they were attacking me for that, I found really funny. And that's the shit more than anything that I like on Howard Stern, Opie and Anthony. That type of show, it was never the shock jockery. It was busting balls, kind of making something out of nothing. Like, to be fair, we've done it to Steve 40 times now, where you take some minor thing that he's said and turn it into a 40-minute, why are you lying about this? Or why do you pronounce this that way? Or whatever it is. So I almost liked being on the other end of that for once. So that example, I don't totally agree with, but I see what you're saying about there's some on-air tension between me and Steve, but off-air, it's actually fine.
Boys, sorry to do this, but I got to leave you. Showtime has started.
DC is leaving.
I'm leaving.
Bye,
leaving the building.
DC, can I ask you one quick question?
He's gone.
Well, fuck him then.
No.
Well, then,
Mike, I got one for you.
Use this time to trash him. What do you guys think?
I'll tell you what was funny that Steve said in the last show when it gives, I think, a window into his delusion when he said that when Brandy Love was in studio, she would think he was really sexy. And I was just like, what are you talking about? You think she's going to come in and see you and like rip her clothes off and say, Steve, let's do it? I mean, he's got some weird shit going on up there.
I gotta say this. I gotta say this about that fucking YouTube video. Can we change the camera angle on me? I mean, Jesus Christ, do I look? I am a fat fuck, like I'm gaining weight, but that camera angle is fucking horrendous. Oh my God!
Dude, I'm in the same boat. Jesus Christ!
I mean, I certainly have to lose some weight, and this inspires me too. But Jesus Christ, I'm gonna be stuck with that camera angle. I don't even know if it's gonna matter.
Did you not see the camera there when you were sitting there?
That's cute. Is that a blind joke? You son of a bitch! Get him out of this.
Oh fuck! Well, no, it's got to be right next to you, though. I mean, come on.
No, I know it's right next to me. What I'm saying is, it's not a particularly flattering angle. You know what I mean?
In my defense, I wasn't going there. I did raise my hand to try to say something earlier. So, I mean, come on.
You say the
fire away. What do you want to say?
No. No, that's not where I was going.
You say the camera adds what, 80 pounds?
That's what they say, TJ. Yes.
Even Kirk looks fat.
You know, that makes me feel better. Thank you.
Yeah, see? Good.
How you guys like? Do you like the video element? What do you think we should do now that there is a video element? Not that it matters what any of us think on this program, but do you think it should be full episodes going up on YouTube, full episodes behind Barstool Gold? Keep it just clips. How do you like it?
The clips is good. It brings a little bit to the show. Obviously, different camera angles if you mic, but I
wouldn't mind it directly
if you want. Like this camera angle, if you looks good, right?
Yeah, I look all right.
Yeah, there you go. Same with me. If you put me back 10 feet, I'd look like Jabba the Hutt. So, I don't know if you film the whole thing and put it up on YouTube. I don't know. Maybe that'd be all right. But
yeah,
I listen to the pod, so.
That's the thing. What would you guys? I guess what I'm asking is, would you guys want to watch the show? Like, do you prefer listening, or do you think you would go on YouTube later and watch it, or do you think there would be any benefit to that if it was all? So pretend it's on Barstool Gold for $5 a month or whatever. Would there be any benefit to you guys from watching it?
I prefer listening to it.
Yeah, you think it's better just in audio?
Yeah.
The benefit of video is seeing your faces at certain things.
That's the thing is you'll get a lot of that, and there should be a camera on Steve, which will happen.
Any thoughts about going live at all, like doing half an hour of the show live to start or something?
That's Steve's mentioned that in the past. I'm sure that could be done at some point. I really don't know. Between YouTube and Barstool Gold and all that type of shit, there's a ton of stuff we can experiment with. First of all, I should say that we never do this. Throw some questions in the chat. I feel like we don't utilize the chat enough. I mention it at the end of the show every time. So if you guys have any questions you want me or any of my panel of guests to answer, feel free to throw in the chat, and Justin will read it for us in a minute. But
hey, Mike, before you go to the chat, the other day you tweeted that Kirk Minahan won up the Spit and Chicklets crew.
He
did.
You
want to talk about what happened there, or?
I don't. So he vaguely alluded to it on the show. If he doesn't want to say what he gave us, then I won't say it. But a nice Christmas bonus was given. Based on what some people think I make, it could have doubled my salary, essentially. So it was a pretty hefty sum. And then he made a joke on Twitter. Maybe it wasn't a joke, where he said, "Yeah, sure, it was me, absolutely." So I can't imagine Barstool and Dave and Erica just being generous enough to think I deserve what he gave me. So I assume it's got to be Kirk, and it just proves he's a nicer guy than he wants to let on. He's a hell of a boss. Yeah. But yeah, I'll say it was a monetary value. It wasn't a Rolex or anything. You could buy a Rolex with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's because you laugh at his jokes.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Is I laugh at enough. That's the thing, Jerry. You'd be into some of this money if you just laughed at enough of his jokes. Justin, anything coming in or no?
I've got a question while we wait.
Go ahead, Manners.
So Mike, I heard you a lot pre coming back to Barstool with the Kirk Minahan show on your various podcast appearances, and you used to speak quite lovingly about Barstool, and you even talked about what would happen if Kirk would have joined Barstool.
Yeah.
4 or 5 months in, are you a little bit disappointed with the way it's gone so far? Your character's been attacked. The show's getting no support.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about the first 5 months? I guess, are you disappointed so far?
Overall, no. So here's the thing: what you just said is one of the more disappointing things to me. Like the fact that I spoke so glowingly of Barstool. Like I respected the shit out of the place. I loved my time there. People say I oversell what I was there. I really don't think I do, but maybe I do. If enough people say it, it's got to be true. So maybe I do. But I just respect the shit out of kind of what they represented more than anything. The idea that regular guys shooting the shit, busting each other's balls. Maybe it used to be more of that than it is now. But who am I to say? Personally, what I didn't like is that Portnoy ignores that. Looks at me asking Smitty and KFC to come on my podcast as me stealing their shot. If you listen to my old podcast, Trash Talk, the only time Barstool came up is when I was avidly defending them because some bullshit story by Laura Wagner or whoever else was written, or I defended KFC when he went through his shit. I defended Smitty with the whole Michael Rappaport stuff. I had Smitty on to talk about it. So maybe I was, I don't know, maybe in a way I was using Barstool, I guess. I can understand why maybe he thinks that, but the idea that I ever had any malice behind that, like I was trying to shit on Barstool, is fucking crazy. So that disappointed me personally. But from a show perspective, there have been things that disappointed me, but overall, here's what you have to look at. You would never get the Kirk Minahan show in the current form, the show you've enjoyed for the last 6 months, on radio.com. It would be a fucking impossibility.
That's a shitty comparison. You must have expected more from Barstool. You must have expected a bit more support. Well, a bit more support with the whole Murchison thing. A little bit more willingness to fight with you guys and have a bit of fun. Everyone seems so serious about the criticism at Barstool HQ. They can't take a bloody joke. So I expected a bit more of that. And then the way they treat you, you're a company guy. I mean, you're a Barstool guy when you weren't even with them. You really like what they do. And for Portnoy and the whole gang to completely dismiss that, I don't know. I think it's a load of shit. And I think there's probably more people
here's the thing.
in New York that are less of a company guy than you.
I don't think the whole gang dismisses that. I think Portnoy dismisses it, and kind of the people that don't know me dismiss it. I think Big Cat is cool with me. Like Big Cat has been a guy that's helped me out in the past and given me advice and things. Kevin, same way, has always been very cool to me. I don't think Feidelberg or Carabas has always been cool to me. Feidelberg has no issue with me. So the guys like that I kind of, Smitty, another one, that have kind of helped me out and I peripherally know a little bit. Those guys have always been awesome. So just the fact, Portnoy went off on a rant and called me an asshole and said he hated me on radio. But then when we had him on the show, he's like, I was angry in the moment and I don't really give a shit about you. So I'm fine with that. That part I don't give a fuck. As far as promoting the show and everything, yes, I thought there would be more, particularly because I think Kirk is on to something. I think what Kirk is doing is very unique. And I think with the proper promotion, especially from a place like Barstool or a guy like Portnoy or whatever, I think it would be fucking huge. I really do. And not that it's not. That's the thing is the podcast does great on its own. Kirk does a great job without Barstool promoting it. But there are some things where it's like just the idea of having Donald Trump Jr. on and not promoting it. Or even having Brandy Love on and not promoting it. Artie Lang, Andrew Dice Clay, whatever. That shit should be promoted, but there should. I expected more. Just the Barstool. Maybe they don't do this all the time. I don't pay attention to the Barstool Twitter or Instagram or any of that enough. but I expected more of once every couple weeks there would be a tweet from the Barstool account saying, "Hey, check out the Kirk Minahan show," and just little, or hey, these Kirk Minahan show hoodies went up on the website or whatever, little shit like that. I kind of expected. I don't know how much of a difference that makes, to be perfectly honest.
Well,
but go ahead.
Didn't headquarters promote Marty Lag being on Joe Rogan's show when he was just on Kirk's show, and then not promote within their own thing? I mean, that seemed kind of like, what the fuck is going on? What are you doing?
Yeah, shit like that is odd. I'd like to know. So I bring up this example all the time when we're talking about this, but Pat McAfee is the guy I always reference, because Pat McAfee left not because of anything Dave or Erica or anyone else did. Like no on-air people. He left because of people on the business side, like sales, promotions, stuff like that. So I wonder if it's a common problem that people have that are outside of the office, where you can't even necessarily blame them. It's almost like you can blame them because it's their fucking job, but I can understand the idea of we're not there. And you've got
good point, Mike.
You've got 15 shows that are there every day that are. I feel like something's going on.
The face of Barstool is David Portnoy. Am I right?
Of course, yeah.
He's the guy. Right. I would say, if I had to be honest, out of all the Kirk Minahan shows, Dave Portnoy has listened to about 5%.
Oh,
maybe.
Probably. I would say less than that.
Yeah, right.
Of episodes, definitely less.
Way less, right? I don't know. Right around there.
Well, I mean, the famous story that KFC told is that he looked at Dave's phone once, and the last podcast he listened to was a podcast he was on like a year prior. So he doesn't listen to podcasts at all, which is fascinating.
He's kind of busy lately.
He's a busy guy, but it's also like so they signed that $1 million worth of game. The new podcast coming to Barstool that Portnoy said is going to be as big as Call Her Daddy and Pardon My Take. It's fascinating. Like, I wonder if Portnoy listened to that, because if not, it's almost more impressive what he's been able to do. You know what I mean? The fact that he doesn't listen to shit and has essentially the most successful podcast network on the planet. If you consider,
it'd be like me commenting on Jerry Callahan. It'd be like me commenting on Jerry Callahan's podcast right now.
Well, it would be like that, but also the idea that Dave put together a podcast network with, Pardon My Take, the biggest sports podcast in the country. Call Her Daddy, the biggest, I don't know what you would call it. I mean, female anti-slut shaming, I guess, maybe, podcast in the country. Spittin' Chicklets, by far the best, the biggest hockey podcast in the country. Foreplay, the biggest golf podcast in the country.
Kirk's daughter.
Kirk's podcast, which is the most unique, like essentially the only radio show podcast, which I heard fucking Cullinane use that to Jerry in that fucking mailbox. What an original idea, Dave. I wonder we're going to try and make this a radio show in podcast form. I wonder where you got that idea. But yeah,
well, to me, I think.
Go ahead.
I think it's kind of interesting because, every once in a while, Kirk will talk about how program directors try to do this, they try to do that. They're listening, they tell you what you can say, what you can't say. And then you have Kirk's walking example in Dave Portnoy. He pays little to no attention. He gives people the reins and lets them do what they're good at. And you see what happens. You see the success. It just speaks volumes.
It's such,
could be.
For all the people that call Barstool this closed-minded place, you look at the other podcasts, all the sports podcasts I named, then Kirk's podcast, which is one of the most unique, interesting things on the planet, I think. Ellie Schnitt, which is like the sorority girls, the guys they just brought in, $1 million worth of game. It's this eclectic mix of this weird group of people that have the most successful podcast network on the planet. And people call Dave and Erica these closed-minded bigots, essentially, that have created a world with such diversity of thought and diversity in general, honestly, if you look at that lineup, There's women, there's Jews, there's there's blacks. This will be a great sound clip for Steve to pull later.
It's Jews.
but really, I don't know how I got into this. I think I got lost in what your question was. But yeah, I mean, I've been disappointed in some shit that Barstool has done, but overall, not really. When you look at how much they leave the show alone, Kirk says all the time, you can't have it both. If you want the show left alone, then it's going to be left alone. You can't be left alone and then say, hey, tweet about us today. Hey, post about us on Instagram today. Hey, talk about us on the radio. You know, you can't really have it both ways, which I understand. There is an element of the sales team should absolutely do more. And I think just in general, the social media team should throw us a bone once in a while.
If the sales team's not doing what they're supposed to be, the social media team isn't putting you guys out there, what's the difference between you, Kirk, and Steve sitting in a room by yourself, no affiliation, and then having Barstool as an affiliate,
and keeping all the money?
Right.
It's the benefit.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So it sounds like only a good thing.
Yeah, I see what
From
you're saying.
From this point of view, I don't know the back end of it.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen when the contract ends. No idea at all. I think there's a benefit to all of us having salaries, and also the amount of people that have reached out to me and said, hey, I didn't know what the show was when Kirk joined. I started listening because I heard that Kirk joined, or I heard Kirk on Barstool Radio or whatever, and now I listen every day. I think there's a benefit to that. I don't know how many people that is.
Right. It'd be nice to know like how many people that is, and
Yeah. But I think it's enough that you can't. It's enough that you can't ignore.
Yeah.
Now there's also an element of once you're at Barstool for X amount of time, does that stop? Is it sort of diminishing returns? Like, does that eventually kind of die off, and then your audience is your audience, and then when you pick up is from your own promotion, Kirk going on other podcasts or whatever it is? That's a question to be asked. But I think I believe there is a benefit benefit from Kirk doing a week of radio with Dave, or us going to the office and people hating it, and it being on Stool Scenes and Barstool Radio, and Kirk doing Foreplay and Section 10 and that type of shit. I think there's a benefit to that.
For sure.
How much, I don't know. But
when it does die off of Barstool, maybe that's 2 years, maybe 3 years. I got a great plan, is what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
There's this radio station up in Madawaska.
I'm all in, baby. I am in. Listen,
for measly $1.5 million.
This is a big. This is a big. If this happens, this is a big promotion for me. I get my own midday slot. I don't know. Would midday? It's questionable. Will more people hear me in middays in Madawaska versus the Kirk Minahan show? I guess I don't know. I'd have to look at the numbers on that. I'm not sure. That's the thing. Syndication is big, TJ. Excellent point. I could be syndicated nationally.
Yeah, you did. All over Canada.
Manners, Australian Minifan. Are you going to make it to Madawaska?
Unfortunately, I cannot make the.
It
would be a 15-hour flight from Sydney to the West Coast, then another 6 hours to Boston, and then another 10-hour drive. So it'd be a pretty long trip for the show. But I'm hoping you guys are going to do the Wilbur next summer, and then hopefully I can come for that.
That would be awesome. We'd love to have you. Justin, has there been anything in the chat worth mentioning? Don't do it now. Just has there been?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Well, we'll get to that in a second. But first, let me tell you again about my friends at Broken Tea Virtual Golf, thebrokentea.com. Make sure you go. Here's the thing. You can go there and hang out, drink some craft beers, a great selection of craft beers, and then whack some balls. Or if you're a serious golfer, it's important to get your rounds in over the winter. Or if you're just trying and want to fuck around, they've got 40 world-famous courses from around the country and around the world. So you can check those out. They've also got a league going on right now that you can enter. That's the thing. Broken Tea Virtual Golf, all kinds of reasons to stop by there. So make sure you stop by Lakeville, Massachusetts. Not Lakeview, Not Frank Abagnale, not Abagnale, Abagnale, Lakeville, Massachusetts. Make sure you stop by there. And it's important to note there's 4 shopping days left before Christmas, I think. If there's a golfer in your family or someone that wants to try, make sure you call them up at you stop by at 166 County Road in Lakeville, Massachusetts, or give them a call and just say, listen, I got a guy in my family. I want a gift certificate and I want a lesson with PGA professional Mark Kitchen. And I heard it on Mike and the Minifans. They're going to say, hey, we'll give you 10% off. Pretty sweet deal for listening to a dumb YouTube show in the middle of the night on Saturday. Am I right, gang? So go to Broken Tee Virtual Golf, thebrokentee.com for all your info. All right, Justin, what do we have going on in the chat that people want to know about?
Someone wants to know why aren't you in the Discord?
Why am I not in the Discord? I explained this on the show. I'm not in the Discord because I think that should be your world, the Minifans world. There's no benefit. Maybe I'll get a few nice compliments, but there's no benefit from me going in there and reading. What a fat fuck blind Mike is. Look at this. Look at this fat piece of shit. He's not funny. He laughs at all of Kirk's jokes. His laugh is fucking annoying. I already know all that. I want to kill myself. There's no benefit in me learning more things about myself that'll make me want to die. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Do you guys think I should be in there? Should I be participating?
No, I think you're doing the right thing. Stay out of it.
Yeah.
It is a cesspool.
I could do an AMA. If people want to do an AMA with me, I would do something like that. But I feel like there's no reason I should be in there.
I would be ready for the AMA. It is the cesspool.
I'll do an AMA. But I swear to Christ, if anyone asks me about those pizzas at Jack's Abbey, there's going to be a 37-minute Mike and the Minifans next week.
I think overall we're past the pizza at Jack's Abbey.
I think so, yeah. Anything else, Justin?
Someone wants to know if actually given the chance, if it was 100% real, would you do a scene with Brandy Love?
Would I do a scene with Brandy Love if given the chance?
If it was actually
Of course.
Come on.
What's stupid question?
What are you, out of your fucking mind? Yeah, of course I would.
Why would you even fucking think about that?
Well, because I've got a girlfriend. Big deal.
No.
Go
Brandy
fuck
Love's
yourself,
married.
sweetheart. Brandy Love, that's a once in a lifetime. That's like asking if I'd take a swing off of Nolan Ryan. You know, you got to respect the greats. You got to shoot hoops with Michael Jordan if you're given the chance.
What
You
about a
don't
threesome with AJ and Brandy Love?
AJ and Brandy Love.
Yeah, threesome.
Hammer time.
So, what's been going on with AJ? Does anyone have people been
No one
following that?
cares.
Yeah, I'm done with that too. So here's the thing. I like AJ. She's a 21-year-old girl. That believe me, if anyone understands emotional distress, I understand. But it's like, what are these Twitter videos where listen to MHB, AJ, that redheaded cunt that I mentioned earlier, and all of these people. If you don't threaten us, if you want to leave the world, quote unquote, then leave. Don't tease us. If you want to get out, if you want to retire, if it's too much for you, then fucking go home. Don't tease us with this. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna get off Twitter. Wouldn't everyone be sad? No, we'll all move on. Everything will be fine. All right. Stop teasing us and just do it. Does that make sense, fellas?
It does. I mean, you're gonna have a little issue up in Madawaska when we go. You get Blind Mike's groupie and AJ fiending over yourself. So I don't know.
Listen. As you know, TJ, what happens in Madawaska? I mean, come on.
Stays in Madawaska.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, what happens in Edmonton, Canada?
We might have to cross the border. Yeah, the things we may do might only be legal in that. Yeah. What else, Justin? Anything?
So this isn't really a question, but people are saying that you don't really have combative people on this show. From someone who's
I happily would. Who wants to be? Is someone someone that wants to argue with me?
Barstool Advisor said it in the Discord. It's like they're calling it Mike and the monologues.
Oh, well, maybe that's true. But I'd have tell Barstool Advisor he can be on next week if he wants.
I just think it's just no one combative. You'll have anyone on.
I'll have anyone on. If people want to fight, I'll happily have them on. I mean, I guess the thing about the show is it's Mike and the Minifans. It's kind of me who likes the show and other people who like the show. So I guess it's tough to be. But yeah, I had. I mean, the reason I had Andy Mayo on is because I know he's a guy that voices complaints about the show. So I wanted to have him on, and he turned out to be good, and he'll probably be a regular. So anyone that wants to, listen, when you get me and DJB together, the chemistry is undeniable. Whether we disagree with each other or not, that's fire chemistry. But if Barstool Advisor or anyone else wants to come on and disagree with me, that's totally fine. Just here's what you do: reach out to me, shoot me a DM, but it's got to be early in the week because I try to book the show by like Tuesday or Wednesday. So just message me early in the week, and we'll. But Barstool Advisor, I know I see his tweets and shit, so I'll reach out to him and get him on if he wants to come on. Anything else, Justin?
This one's not for you, but it's for Manners.
Oh.
Did he find Kirk?
He mentioned that earlier. You can explain it again, Manners, but you basically found Kirk. Oh, here's kind of a follow-up. You found Kirk because you were checking out WEI. Why did you give a shit about Boston sports?
So I was interested in the Boston sports teams, and so I would, search for podcasts about them, and then I stumbled across EEI, and as I said, I couldn't stand the DNC show because Dino used to just drive me nuts, but I guess it was around 2013, Kirk maybe started appearing on it. And as I said, there was one segment where they did some shitty player interview, and then at the end of it, Kirk was pissing and moaning about someone or something. And the thing is, he was pissing and moaning about someone who I didn't know or hadn't heard of, but I still wanted to hear the next segment to see what the hell is this guy so upset about. And then it kind of rolled from there. And when I knew I was really a P1 was when they stopped uploading the podcast for a while because of all the stuff with Murchison and all the stuff being dumped. And I would actually tune in and stream it live some evenings because we used to start about 8 or 9 at night going to bed. So that's when I knew I had a real Kirk problem. And I'm so glad he's got the podcast.
Anything else, Justin? Anything that tickles your asshole?
Well, why do you never ask Kirk about his wife?
Why do I never ask Kirk about his wife?
Yeah,
that's none of my
I
fucking
find this
business.
interesting too.
Why would I ask him about that? It's not my fucking business.
No, but the point is, Kirk
weird.
talks about everything openly. You talk about Alba. Steve talks about his wife. Kirk never mentions his wife ever. And I think
none of my. I don't know. It's none of my business. What the fuck do you want?
Well, it came up in that song. It came up in that song on was it yesterday? And he just kind of glazed over it. I thought that was kind of.
I don't know. I didn't even hear it. But yeah, I have no idea.
I wonder if Kirk is a very different person around his wife.
Maybe I don't fucking know. Maybe it's a private situation. I have no idea. But I don't know. I don't know or care really. Anything else, Justin?
Do you want to go to Miami? Do you feel like
Do I want to go to Miami? Yeah. So that's a weird thing. I am being excluded a little bit, right? But Steve's going down on his own dime, kind of. I don't know.
No.
I don't know. Am I wrong about that?
Milton's.
Oh, right.
Would you stay in would you if they said, "Oh, you can go"?
Would I stay? Of course, yeah. I would do whatever the show. Of course, I would go. They never asked me, so maybe they don't want me there. Yeah, that feels like a little.
Hold on,
that feels like a slight a little bit.
That pissed me off. That was fucking bullshit. Steve goes, "Oh, it would make for a better show if I was down there." Yeah, no shit. It would make for a better show if Mike was down there. So I want to know what this conversation with Milton's was. Was it Steve just saying, "I want to go down there. I want to do this"? Like, were you brought up at all? Was that a possibility? Did Milton say no? We can only do this much money. Like, that would be interesting to hear how that went down. Because if all three of you were in the same place, that's the show that we all want. Like, if you were to call in by phone,
agree.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So
what does that do?
So here's the weird thing. I don't. This is a thing I didn't know how to feel about. I was not on the list. Mikey Fowler gives them a list of here's people on podcasts that could be valuable in Miami, and obviously Kirk was on there, and he put Steve on the list, I guess, and he did not put me. So I guess it's Mikey Fowler's assessment that the show doesn't need me or something. I genuinely don't know. Yeah, it annoys me in the sense that I'm part of the show. So if the show's going down there, then I should be part of it. I also understand I'm an employee that doesn't make a ton of money. If they don't see the value in paying for my hotel accommodations down there, or whatever the fuck, I guess I get it.
Yeah, but they're also not paying for Steve's, as far as we were all told.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. No, it has not been brought up to me. No one's asked if I've wanted to go. No. We lost. Well, all right. We're wrapping up
You're
anyways.
more, it's more important you go than Steve because anyone can record the podcast and upload it. They actually need someone to talk to Kirk and have some fun. I mean, Steve's not going to do that. So what are they going to do?
I mean, Steve's important in the sense that he'll be there to help Kirk with anything, whether it's being the camera guy, following him around, recording whenever they need, because Kirk's kind of got a more of a morning schedule than anyone at Barstool. So Steve's valuable in that way, and I understand that. And he could do the podcast with, I mean, say he's down there 5 days, he could do Big Cat, Kevin, Carabas, Feidelberg, Casey Smith, whatever it is. So he can find people to fill in for me for a week pretty easily. So yeah, I don't know. I hadn't thought that much about it. I've found it weird every time it gets brought up that it's just assumed I'm not going. But I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm offended by it. I do find it a little weird. Yeah, for sure.
Do you want to go?
Sounds like you got a nice Christmas bonus, Miami.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Do I want to go, TJ? I don't want to go in the sense that I don't want to be down there with Barstool for 5 days or whatever.
Okay.
But I mean, I want to be on the show. Like I feel I have a role on the show, and I want to be. There aren't days I want to miss. You know, and also I don't want a week of, oh, this person was better than Mike. Oh, the show sounds good without Mike. You know, so I don't. Of course, I don't like that. Do I want to go to the Super Bowl? Not particularly, but
The radio part of it, probably, yeah.
yes, the podcasting part definitely. But yeah, do I want to travel down there? Not really, but for the same reasons Kirk doesn't want to.
Well, there was a time there was a casting couch member that needed to go to Minnesota. And I remember running the hashtag Mutt the Mini. And
Yeah,
he
right.
actually ended up in Minnesota. So maybe we can start a little hashtag Mike to Miami.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's see if we can get that rolling. And
All
see
right,
if we can
Mike
get
to
you
Miami.
there.
Hashtag the shit out of it. Mike the Minifans viewers. Mike to Miami. I like it. Although, you know, maybe gives me a free week off. Maybe I'll do Mike and the Minifans every day if I'm stuck here.
Been to Miami?
Steve was complaining about his hotel. He was saying, "Oh, you know, I
Well, it's
have
not
to
a
stay in this
hotel. It's an Airbnb or something.
But then at
He
the end of
seemed
it, he
pretty
said he
content
booked
with
it.
it.
He booked his own bloody accommodation, and he's complaining about it. Very strange.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's. I imagine the week of the Super Bowl, it's tough to get anything particularly close to where they're going to be. So
Or
to be fair, there probably wasn't a wide variety of selections.
With the prostitutes and Asian orchids of Asia and meth addicts, and hey, it's a good place.
Yeah.
Nice time.
All right. Anything you boys want to bring up before we get out of here? Any of you? The floor is yours before we sign off. No, everyone's silent. Everyone's silent. Jesus
No, I was
Christ.
waiting for the others to jump in. I have one
Have you seen
thing.
Star Wars yet?
I've not
Mike.
seen Star Wars. Manners, what were you going to say?
I was just going to talk about your discussion where you were talking about this sort of intersection between journalists and podcasters in your last episode, I think, before the break. How you were saying, the using the foreplay guys. Maybe it was Thursday's show, and I think you made some good points. But I think it is a strange thing for podcasters when they sort of go into the journalism world. They seem to get a lot of shit.
Say that again. I'm sorry. You broke up.
So, you're talking about the foreplay guys, how they
Yeah.
get a lot of shit from the other golf
Oh,
journalists.
yes.
So I think it's an interesting thing because I think podcasters, and it's the same for the Kirk Minahan show, are kind of starting a new world where you're not on the radio, you're not on the TV, you're kind of your own little world, and you can do crazy stuff. And, if you piss off a few old guys, who cares?
That's the thing, and that's kind of what we said on the show, is that they've never pretended to be journalists. That's the difference, is that if Jared Carabas or the foreplay guys were going to these baseball games or golf events and pretending to be these respected journalists and then playing slap and tickle with Tiger Woods or Chris Sale or whoever the fuck, that'd be different. And that oddly enough, that's what guys like Pete Abraham do, who covers the Red Sox. That's what those guys do, is they pretend to be journalists and then they kiss the players' asses. The Barstool guys are honest about who they are. And that's kind of how they are able to get stories, is that people are cool with them. People like them. It's a weird thing where
I think it's even easier than that. It's a media credential. Not all media members are journalists. So
and that's what I say is that like you look at the
why,
Super Bowl.
Why do they have to be the run-of-the-mill journalist? They cover it in a different way. It's still media.
The fucking
Some journalists not even
MTV and the E Network is at the Super Bowl. You know what I mean?
Right,
you don't have
exactly.
to be. You don't have to be hard-hitting newspaper beat reporters to get into events. That's just what it is, and they should understand. Foreplay is growing the sport more than anyone writing at Sports Illustrated, ESPN, the fucking Washington Post, USA Today, any of that horse shit. Barstool is helping golf grow to a younger audience way more than any of them. So they can go fuck themselves. Anything else, boys, before we sign off?
I'm good.
Everyone's good. All right, guys.
good.
Well, thanks for coming on. Manners, excellent job all the way from down under.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Lots of fun. Great to chat.
My pleasure. TJ, thanks for coming on. DJB, thanks for coming on. And DEC, our former president, thanks for coming on, boys. And we'll talk to you next week on Mike and the Minifans. Goodbye. If Justin ever plays this song.
Another tough day at work today. Stephen Kirk, think I suck. Throw back a few wobbly pops, feeling down on my luck. And the interns ruin every show. But it's still where we want to go. It's Mike and the Minifans. 'Cause nobody had any better plans. You wanna be with DC and RA Minahan. The host can't see it's Mike and the Minifans. And nobody's seen real MHB. This whole thing is a sham. You never see him pee, it's Mike and the Minifans.